The growth of the early church. In this video, we're going to be discussing the growth of the early church, that is, the church from the period of the death of the apostles around 70 AD to 323 AD when Christianity was legalized. During that time, Christianity grew to be a worldwide religion, in spite of the fact that it was despised by most of the culture around it. As such, we can learn a great deal about our witnessing today from studying the early church. The challenge of the early church was this: how do you fulfill the Great Commission while being despised by the world? The greatest resistance to the church, though, was not political persecution or the danger of death, but was social ostracism. People just believed that Christians were bad people. The world believed Christians were superstitious, legalistic, sexually immoral, and even cannibals. Roman society worshipped many gods, treated other gods with respect. The official religion of Rome was pluralism. Live and let live was its motto when it came to religion. The real authority, though, did not lay in religion, but lay in the state. The state, and the symbol of the state is here, was the ultimate arbiter of what was right and wrong. Christianity was the first banned religion in ancient Rome. In this, ancient Rome is very much like modern America. It accepted the doctrine of religious pluralism, that all religions were basically the same. Public morality and private religion were considered unrelated issues. A person's religion, according to an ancient Roman and a modern American, is none of anybody else's business. Christianity insisted that there was only one God and that all the other gods were wrong. They were false gods. Christianity believed that God had decreed a moral way of living, and many Christians were pacifists and rejected Roman military culture. Christians were seen as outsiders in ancient Rome. They were considered uneducated. They wrote in Koine Greek, not classical Greek like educated people did. Koine Greek was the language of the street. They included people from the outcast segments of society, slaves, foreigners, and other people that the rest of society rejected. This suspicions led to a gross misunderstanding of Christian behavior. There were many lies told about Christians and believed by the Romans. Among them were these: that the love feasts, the dinners that the Christians shared together, were actually sexual orgies, since they were done at night and in private. Christians who rescued infants from garbage dumps did it for human sacrifice, they were taught. Communion was seen as a means of cannibalism. These may seem fantastic to us, but they were believed by many ancient Romans. So with all these lies, how did the Christians win? Well, it took 250 years for us to overcome those lies. One of the ways they did it is they began training people as Christians long and early. As soon as a person became a believer in Christ, they were put through a rigorous training program to explain what Christianity was and is. Baptism was not done immediately in the early church, but was done 2 to 3 years later. Because of persecution, it was necessary for people to understand exactly what they were getting into in the church and what would be expected of them as a baptized Christian. Christianity attracted people through personal sharing of their faith, Christian to non-Christian, and through living Christ-like lives in the world. They faced persecution with martyrdom, love, and grace. It was said of early Christians that the blood of the martyrs was the seed of the church. One such account of Christian martyrdom is found in a book called The Acts of the Martyrs. It involves 2 women by the name of Perpetua and Felicity. These 2 women, one a nobleman and another one a slave, led a group of martyrs that were fed to wild animals in Carthage and Africa. Their martyrdom led to such an outcry from the townspeople to pity the Christian that it set the stage for the toleration of Christians in that area. Christianity in those days could not be taught. It had to be caught, person to person. It could not be promoted by mass media, but had to be promoted by individual Christians sharing their faith with other individual non-Christians. Eventually, people realized that Christians were much like themselves, although they lived a higher quality and moral standard of life. Christians sought to live as Jesus lived, and in time, love wore down the prejudices and lies of society. In time, Christians grew in stature and acceptance. Some educated people accepted Christianity in the middle of the 2nd century. Those people, such as Origen, wrote public defenses of the faith in classical Greek that were respected by others. Emperors who were most diligent in persecution also came to bad ends. This was seen by the superstitious Romans as examples of divine retribution upon them. Finally, in 321 AD, the Emperor Constantine had a vision. He saw a Christian symbol, the chi rho symbol, the first 2 letters of Christ's name in Greek, suspended in the sky on the eve before a battle. A voice said to him, "In this sign conquer." Constantine had all of his battle banners emblazoned with the chi rho symbol of Christ, and he won the battle. And as a reward for winning the battle, Constantine legalized Christianity. Eventually, Constantine himself became baptized as a Christian, but not until his deathbed. Constantine used Christianity after it became legal for his own political purposes, however. He gave bishops the power to act as judges, which made it easier for him to administer his vast empire. It became fashionable under Constantine to become a Christian, and so there were mass baptisms, and later, after Constantine's death, there was also persecution of non-Christians. As a result, the difference of lifestyle between Christians and non-Christians diminished, and Christians increasingly began to act like pagans. Constantine did not win the Roman Empire to Christianity. It was countless Christian saints and martyrs who won the Roman Empire for Christ. Now today, the Constantinian alliance between church and state has disappeared. Western culture no longer considers itself Christian. And if we are to grow the church in the 21st century, we will have to rediscover the methods of personal change that made the church of the 2nd and 3rd centuries such a spiritual force. Church growth in modern society will not come by large meetings or mass marketing, but by a church that is very much like the early church. It'll come from Christians who are encouraged to grow into full maturity in Christ, who can be an influence on their friends and on their neighbors. The growth of the early church did not come about because of big meetings or programs or mass evangelism, but it came about because the people who were Christians lived Christian lives. They modeled Christ in front of their friends and their neighbors, and by their example and by their witness, they were able to win the world to Jesus Christ. As we come into a world which increasingly rejects Christianity as a public religion, as a national religion, we're going to find it much more important that our personal witness remain strong, and that we as churches train people to be witnesses and to live Christ-like lives.